city's heartbeat in the night, flickerings in neon light, walking through this love so bright, holding on we'll take the flight.
Explore Preston's past and present heritage, wind back the clock and discover the incredible buildings of Preston. In this video, see key landmarks that have helped shape Preston's and find out about the stories behind the city's statues and sculptures. Preston is jam-packed with heritage sites and stories to tell. Admire Preston's most iconic landmarks and see nearly 1,000 years of history. See Preston's impressive large-scale murals and much, much more. Explore the most hunted places in and around Preston.
Whispered secrets, lips on fire.
Uncover Preston's hidden history and how you can explore it.
Love so pure it'll never tire. Heaven's pull taking us higher.
Uncover Preston's hidden gems down Preston's side streets. The Harris Museum and Art Gallery is a striking Grade Y listed neoclassical building. It was allegedly designed in the 1880s by local architect James Hibbert, but there is much evidence around Preston which points to missing legacy, the lost world of the mud flood and a 19th century world reset. Most of the empire was supposedly lost in a series of mudslides, typically referred to as mud floods. Some buildings remained and still stand today and are claimed to actually be from the Tartarian Empire. It may be imposing, but it's also simple and symmetrical in design. The main feature is the crowning pediment filled with exquisite sculpture, a design popular in ancient Greek architecture. On the apex there are the griffins of Tartaria, guarding the lamp of learning. Beneath the pediment inscribed into the stone is the dedication to literature, arts and sciences, which reflects the purpose and use of the building. Then around the sides of the building there are many inspirational inscriptions promoting the greatness of mankind. The Harris Building has been compared to other prominent European buildings, including the British Museum in London. However, where the Harris Museum differs is that despite the impressive facade, it is missing a welcoming front set of steps leading directly off the square. Instead, there are two entrances to the side of the building which are hidden from view. The interior of the Harris Museum is equally impressive. It features a central hall that rises to the full height of the building through a circular opening. There's a balcony on each floor that looks down into the hall and up to the roof. Gallery spaces extend off each side of the hall on each floor, displaying local artworks, an extensive glass and ceramics exhibition, and various temporary exhibitions. Although Sessions House and the Harris Museum are the stars of Preston's Market Square, the Queen of the Square is easily the beautiful cenotaph. It was designed by Sir Giles Gilbert Scott, who incidentally designed the iconic red telephone box, a line of which can be found just around the corner. Preston's cenotaph is considered to be one of the most impressive freestanding war memorials in the country, not just in size, but in its sophistication too. The main feature of the memorial is the figure of Victory, who is cast with raised arms holding laurel wreaths. Set amidst two columns which support a pediment, the cenotaph mimics other architectural features found on the square. When it comes to great architecture in Preston, the Market Square is the place to go. The Preston Head Post Office in Marketplace was built on the site of a demolished line of shops extending from the summit of the northern side of Friargate to where Burley Street exists in the present day. The design of the Preston Head Post Office was handed to Henry Tanner. In 1925, alterations and an extension the rear of the building were carried out, this work being under the designs of architect Charles Wilkinson. Over the years gone by, the interior has been modified to suit purpose and style of the times. The main post office hall saw one major change in the 1960s to a design more in keeping with the times. In the last few years, there has been a movement to paint large-scale murals in Preston. Many, though not all, reflect heritage themes about the city. The Mother is the most recent of all the murals and is located on the side of Hogarth's in Church Street. It was painted in 2023 by Sean Sharp. Sean took 5 days to complete the piece, which depicts a young woman cradling the Preston lamb. The Northern Way mural, inspired by Pauline in the yellow dress. On the Northern Way mural, there are other heritage connections with Preston. At the top are 3 boards. The first denotes a football player and the word Invincibles. This harks back to Preston North End's nickname after they won both the Football League and FA Cup in the same season, 1888-9. The second board has PB for Preston Guild, the once every 20-year celebrations in the city. On the final board is a tribute to Halewood & Sons booksellers. The business was first opened on Friargate in 1867. There are 2 Halewood & Sons bookshops on Friargate. On the side of the Wheatsheaf pub not far from Preston Docks you will find the Betsy Lee mural, which is a nod to Preston's cotton mills. Betsy Lee, the mill worker, was created to show both sides of this industry. I'm sure many of you have parents and grandparents who worked in the mills. It's been 50 years since they shut. In another 50, we won't have anyone around to tell their experience of working in them, so keeping the history alive is important. A brand new mural depicting Preston North End legend Sir Tom Finney has been unveiled in the city centre, located on the outside wall of Urban Kitchens on Moor Lane on the way up to Moor Park. Sir Tom is a figure in Preston who made a massive impact not only in his field of chosen sport, but also for the good of the town's community. The Adelphi has a stunning flora mural on the side of the building. This was part of an extensive refurbishment in 2021. Floral-themed murals are becoming an increasingly popular form of decoration for bars and pubs, but are usually on the inside of the premises. When Blind Tiger Inns took over the station pub in 2020, they wanted something to cover an unsightly sidewall. To this end, they commissioned Urban Gypset from Cornwall, which comprises of 2 graffiti artists named Sketch and Amanda. The work here does not have an obvious heritage theme, except for the Lancashire red roses. The pair worked using... The Cannon Street mural is a thoroughly modern graffiti painting by Sean Sharp, and not a historical one. If it were to survive, it was painted with permission on wooden hoardings. It could in time be seen as an example of early 21st century graffiti style. Sean created it in the hope that people would come down Cannon Street to see it, and perhaps go in some of the shops along the way, bringing in some trade. There are a number of interesting businesses on Cannon Street, including a couple of retro clothing stores. Blacker Moorhead Mural, Vicarage Road. The mural was created by Chris Dorning, and he describes it as an homage to Preston based on memories of his life in city. As with the above-mentioned Mile 0 21st, this was part of the original Paint Preston project. Completed in early 2022, it shows key places and objects of inspiration to Chris. Outside Preston's recently renovated covered market stand, the bronze Wallace and Gromit statues. Nick Park, the creator of these characters, is from Preston, as is their sculptor Peter Hodkinson. Preston Markets is steeped in history, with key periods shaping what you see today. Possibly even earlier, the Flag Market and surrounding streets were the main places to trade in Preston. The outdoor market has new bespoke trading tables as well as Preston Markets branded umbrellas. The brand new market hall, located under part of the grand Victorian canopy, is a glass-walled structure that lets in light at all angles. The entire Lancashire area is a veritable hotbed for paranormal activity, including every type of haunting imaginable, from witches and headless spectres to ghostly Roman soldiers and everything in between. The town of Preston in particular seems to have more than its fair share of paranormal activity going on, with not one, but 3 of the town's buildings. Whether you believe in the paranormal or not, some stories are enough to send a chill down your spine. St. Joseph's Orphanage was built on Mount Street in 1872 and existed as a home for Roman Catholic girls for more than a century. By 1988, the orphanage closed and the building was then converted into a care home until it closed its doors in February 2003. The entire Mount Street site has been neglected ever since and is now in a derelict state. Last year, a woman captured a photo of what appears to be the ghostly face of a child peering out of the window of the tower at St. Joseph S. The haunted Miley Tunnel under Preston is said to be home to a grey lady who stalks the tunnels with a 15-year-old girl. Lancashire has been the setting for many tales of tragedy, from grisly murders to executions and huge fires. It's a county steeped in history, with some dark events dating back hundreds of years. Those who have explored it claim to have seen a ghostly figure wandering the tracks, while there are also claims that screams have been heard. It is claimed that one of the spirits to haunt the Miley Tunnel is that of Margaret Banks, who was killed on the tracks in the 1800s. The events that unfolded at Deepdale Station in 1866 are both horrific and tragic. Young Margaret, who was just 15 years old, is said to have fallen from a train carriage as it travelled through the station. The teenager was dragged under the wheels of the train, resulting in her death. She is said to walk the tunnel at night and faint appears on dark and stormy nights. If legend is to be believed, it is Margaret's blood, curdling screams that echoes beneath the busy streets above. There also have been several reports of sightings of a mysterious grey lady. The Wellington Inn was built in the early 19th century, complete with a coach house. The pub has earned the title of the most haunted pub in Preston, but where these spirits come from is a mystery. Steeped in spiritual activity, noises of drunken moans can be heard from the bar area in the dead of night when the pub is closed. Both employees and customers regularly experience paranormal activity, with objects being thrown around and electrical equipment mysteriously malfunctioning. The pub is also known to have had many past landlords pack up and leave due to spooky goings-on. One landlord in particular experienced his bed shaking violently in the middle of the night. There are records of Jesuit priests working in Preston from 1701. The first post-Reformation Catholic church in Preston was established by Jesuits in 1761, St Mary's in Friargate. This church, now demolished, soon became too small and was replaced by St Wilfrid's, which was begun in April 1792 and finished 14 months. The start of the Jesuit mission to England was 1540 to 1580. Pope Paul III formally approved the Society of Jesus with the bull Regimini Militantis Excelsiae on the 27th of September 1540. St. Ignatius of Loyola S.J. was the founder of the society. On the 21st of January, the Jesuit Superior General Mutio Vitelleschi approved the creation of an English province and named Richard Blount S.J. as its first provincial. The mission to England was approved in 1580 by Pope Gregory III. The first Jesuit missioners, Edmund Campion, Ralph Emerson and their superior, Robert Persons, departed Rome for England in April 1580 and arrived clandestinely a few months later. There is much evidence that the true history of Preston was hidden after the Great Resets, mud flood of 1834, and the Jesuits are keeping the true history from the public. This when we come across the 1,000-year timeline deception buildings having their dates of construction change. This is evident when you look at the buildings of Preston. The dates on the cornerstones are later than the dates on the top of the buildings. Few people visiting Preston will be able to ignore St Walberg's Roman Catholic Church. Towering 309 feet above the city, its spire is the tallest of any parish church in England, with only the spires of Salisbury and Norwich Anglican cathedrals reaching higher. Standing in the Magdalen district of the city, close to the site of the 12th century Mary Magdalene Leper Hospital, which gave the area its name, it is truly a building at Preston's historic heart. St Walberg's was made to be noticed. The Jesuits commissioned it in 1847 at a time of supreme religious confidence. Fishergate Baptist Church was designated a Grade II listed building in 1986. The church was allegedly built in 1857-58 to a design by James Hibbert and Nathan Rainford. It was for many years an active church but has been redundant since 2011. The restored historical landmark now houses Bistro Pierre and has been opened to the public once again. It would not be out of place in Florence or Milan, though I dare say it has become an established feature of the greyer Preston townscape. Now I'm a fan of architectural flourish. When it comes to Preston's pubs and bars scene, it's time to raise a glass to the city's fine mix of traditional pubs and cosmopolitan bars. From chic urban cocktail and gin bars, to cool hangouts offering a great selection of craft beer and wines, plus a number of excellent live music venues, Preston makes great a choice for catching up with friends and enjoying a top evening out. The ancient building that now homes Plough Inn and Beer House dates back to 1668, and a 40-feet medieval well hidden underneath the gin bar was found undergoing renovation before opening in 2018. The building, which was originally built in 1668 as a butcher's shop, was formerly converted into a pub named the Plough Inn, but later closed in 1913. The pub reopened as Gin Bar Plough in September 2018 and was the first trading the building has had in 105 years. In the months during the restoration, the well was excavated below the water table to a depth of 43 foot. The large stone well was found to be built with excellent quality for such a structure, which suggested it was built by an individual or organisation of high status. The well has been identified as being almost certainly of medieval origins, built between 1100 and 1600. Friargate also welcomed the first Catholic church in Preston. St Mary's was first a chapel, then a church. This building, after being converted into cottages and again transformed into a stable, was pulled down a few years ago and a car park erected upon the site. It was dedicated to St Mary, probably in memory of the ancient hospital on the moorlands. This photograph of the rather tired-looking front of St Mary's Chapel on Friargate before its demolition. An earlier chapel occupied a site lower down Friargate in the early 18th century, and claims are made for a chapel on that site as early as 1605. The magnificent Miller Arcade dominated the street. This elegant shopping arcade is a Grade II listed masterpiece of Victorian splendour and an iconic piece of architecture in Preston. Sporting a beautiful terracotta-coloured Italian-style facade, it was modelled on the fashionable Burlington Arcade in London. Inside, the vintage shop fronts belong to many independent retailers. The arcade features pretty patterned tile floors, high domed glass ceilings, and a number of lampposts to resemble an outdoor setting. It's certainly very quaint, and I could visualise Fred Astaire dancing around the lamppost singing in the rain, without the precipitation. Waterstones is Preston's largest bookshop, committed to sharing a passion of books and reading with the local community. Set amidst the impressive surroundings of a Grade II listed building, customers can browse a fantastic range of books and stationery across 2 floors. The ground floor is a destination space for literary and fiction lovers, as well as a creative and playful environment for children. Non-fiction lovers will relish the delightfully calm atmosphere of the first floor, where they can lose themselves in a variety of subjects from history to travel. Visible from the Miller Arcade is St John's Minster. Like several English towns that were later granted city status, Preston does not have an Anglican cathedral and therefore cannot be termed a cathedral city. What did happen, however, was the parish church dedicated to St John the Evangelist got elevated to the status of Minster Church by the Church of England. It falls within the Diocese of Blackburn, which notably is a town with a cathedral. The current Grade II listed church building was built in the 1850s after the previous church was demolished, and is built in the decorated Gothic style. The impressive tower and spire is what stands out the most when approaching the Minster. The spire stands tall, and the supporting tower is rather imposing but slightly out of proportion with the rest of the church. The flats in Avenham comprise of a number of high-rise blocks, Richmond, Lincoln and Carlisle House, and many smaller flats dotted around the area. They were built in the 1960s and are still standing in the Queen Street estate of Preston. Harris Institute, Avenham Lane, Preston. The institute by John Welch, allegedly built in 1846 to 1849 as Preston Institution for the diffusion of useful knowledge. Operating from London between 1826 and 1848, the Society for the Diffusion of Useful Knowledge, SDUK, was one of the most ambitious re-educational projects of the 19th century to hide the true old world knowledge. It was part of the Great Reset to eradicate true history of our past. By spreading cheap secular books and periodicals on lower scientific knowledge, the Society and its numerous members sought to diffuse ideas about Western science and civilization, not only within the British Isles, but also all throughout the British Empire and the world. The Harris Institute was one of UCLAN's original buildings, and, in 1828, a leading figure in Preston, Joseph Livesey, who became famous as the founder of the temperance movement, was the catalyst behind the educational vision, which ultimately led to the establishment of this university. Plans to bring the building into educational use were unfortunately not taken forward, and the building remains vacant with no future use agreed. The former Corn Exchange of 1822 to 1824, remodelled as a meeting hall and entertainment complex partly demolished in 1986, and now used as a public house. Plug Riots and Chartists, just outside the Corn Exchange on Loon Street in Preston, stands the Martyrs' Memorial. It commemorates the sacrifice of workers in their struggle for fair pay and democratic rights in a time when most had access to neither. The flashpoint that occurred on the 12th of August 1842 led to the deaths and serious injuries of some of the crowd gathered on Loon Street. Allegedly, the Harris Building officially opened in 1897 and was originally known as the Victoria Jubilee Technical School. It housed spinning rooms, a weaving shed, and a lecture theatre for 250 students. It's undergone many changes since, with major extensions between 1929 to 1932, adding new classrooms, laboratories and a gym. Outside the building guarding the entrance are the Griffins of Tartaria, a possible clue to the true origins of the building. St Peter's Arts Centre, a former church building, is a versatile theatre production and events venue, with an extensive stock of technical and staging equipment. The rich resonant acoustics of the building combined with the interesting architectural design make this an impressive setting for student productions and university events. Preston Central Methodist Church. Located in Preston city centre since 1817, Loon Street's chapel was one of the first public buildings in the country to be lit by gas and cost £6,000 to build. This historical building hosts exhibitions and market events. The bus station. My first thoughts were, OMG, what an eyesore! Of course, this view wasn't helped by the current building work going on around the station. The building looks like it would be more at home at an airport. Built in 1969, the bus station was the largest in Europe and has been the subject of much controversy. Many consider it an example of the worst of 1960s brutalist architecture and wanted it demolished. Preston City Council were hoping to do just that as part of a regeneration scheme. However, in 2013 the station was granted Grade 2 listed status, so it's here to stay. Whatever your thoughts about the building, love or hate, there's no mistake that it is an important record of the architecture of the era. And as far as architecture in Preston goes, the bus station is certainly unique. Just around the corner from the bus station is Preston's Guildhall. The building is the city's main entertainment complex, hosting a range of excellent restaurants, retailers and theatrical spaces. Constructed in the 1970s, the Guildhall replaced the original public hall. It was transferred to private ownership in 2014 and has since gone from strength to strength with grand refurbishments. The latest update transformed the old balcony to an outdoor terrace with retractable cover. Sessions House. This Guildhall looks out onto Preston's Town Hall and Sessions House. The latter serves as the city's courthouse and is yet another Grade 2 listed building in Preston. If you walk down the road immediately opposite the Guildhall and look up to your right, you'll see an impressive sandstone facade. The elaborate architectural features, including sculptures and a superb Baroque tower, make this one of the most beautiful pieces of architecture in Preston. Sessions House is also one of the tallest buildings in Preston. What's unusual about this building is that this amazing facade does not face onto the main square, but onto what is in effect a side street. All Saints Church is located in Elizabeth Street, Preston. It is an evangelical Anglican parish church in the Deanery of Preston, the Archdeaconry of Lancaster, and the Diocese of Blackburn. The church was allegedly built in 1846 to 1848. Preston Royal Infirmary. This building was originally called Royal Brook House. It was built in 1829 to 33. It was built by the Poor Law Vestry as a house of recovery. It was then incorporated with the Royal Infirmary in 1870. It closed as hospital in 1987. You can see Old World Antiquitech is still on this building. In the heart of Preston's conservation area, and just 50 yards from Preston's main retail district, this beautifully landscaped Winckley Square is a peaceful urban refuge from the hurly-burly of city life. Winckley Square was the brainchild of the Preston attorney William Cross, who purchased Town End Field from the Winckley estate in 1796. William built the first house on the square in 1799, now number 11 Winckley Street. He named the square after the Winckley family. Preston North End's club history stretches back to 1880 as of the finest football teams of the era. The Lily Whites emerged as an early force in the game as the first Invincibles in 1888-1889. The land on which the stadium stands was originally Deepdale Farm. It was leased on the 21st of January 1875 by the town's North End Sports Club and originally used for cricket and rugby. It hosted its first association football match on the 5th of October 1878. Harry Carmel motioned the idea of founding a football club at Deepdale in May 1880 to help alleviate the financial burdens of Preston North End Cricket Club. Their origins date back as far as 1863 and used North End in the name to denote the area of Preston they were based. With the club's history stretching back to 1880, Deepdale has hosted a raft of Preston North End legends. There is also a statue outside the ground of arguably the Lily Whites' greatest ever player, Tom Finney. Preston also rechristened the main stand of their stadium after him. Avenham and Miller Parks have a colourful history, dating back to 1860s, when they were created during the cotton famine. The parks are connected by paths alongside the River Ribble and underneath an ornate railway bridge. Both parks were designed by the landscape architect Edward Milner with the intention of creating a harmonious whole, something he definitely achieved. The water fountain set into its dressed stone alcove at the southeast of Avenham Park was an original feature of the park when it was installed in the 1860s as part of the park's design. The fountain is referred to locally as the Dolphin Fountain, even though the water feature affixed here from the late 19th century was a sea serpent in character. Around the Preston area are many ancient holy wells and springs destroyed thanks to those industrialists who tend to do that sort of thing. But some can still be found, like this one in Avenham Park. One feature present since the creation of the parks is the Belvedere, which was originally located along what is now the Derby Walk in Miller Park. It was later moved to where it stands today in Avenham Park in 1875 to make room for the Earl of Derby statue. The structure is Grade 2 listed, and with the name Belvedere meaning beautiful view, it is appropriately placed with stunning views of the park. Penwortham Old Bridge dates from the Georgian era and was built to connect Penwortham with Preston. Before its construction, people wanting to cross the River Ribble at this point had two choices, the ferry or the falls. The ferry had been in existence since medieval times. Evidence from a written record from 1388 shows that the Vicar of Mitton near Clitheroe had given money so that the ferry would be free for travellers to use. The area where the bridge is located is called Middleforth, literally Middle Ford. Further up the river, the other crossable point would be at Walton-le-Dale, where the Romans built a bridge for their industrial site. Preston's economic progression included the River Ribble and its banks, docks, historic bridges and associated waterways. All of these were integral to the historical landscape and heritage. Prior to Preston docks being constructed, ships would come to the city to unload and shelter in a natural basin and man-made wharves at the confluence of the River Ribble and the Moorbrook. Preston Docks opened in 1892 and at the time was the largest single dock in the country. Despite never being a major port, Preston Dock was the first to introduce roll-on-roll off traffic and ferry transport. This led to the port holding the record for handling the largest amount of container and ferry traffic by the 1960s. The name Preston is derived from Old English meaning priest settlement or priest town, as it was allegedly founded by St Wilfrid for his priests. But if you dig deeper into the true history of Preston area, you will uncover a strong connection to King Arthur. More information on this can be found in the film Prophecy of Albion. This name was given to the town by Angles, one of the main Germanic peoples who settled in Great Britain after the Roman period. Its well-known coat of arms originates from its strong Catholic roots, depicting the biblical Lamb of God with the PP standing for Princeps Pacis, or Prince of Peace. Thanks for watching, and remember, the search for truth begins in your heart.